Men of Reddit, what's the biggest green flag in a woman? Story 1. Fighting and or approaching conflict in a healthy manner. During one of my early fights with my GF, now wife of 15 years, I was surprised that even though she was still mad, she clearly said, "I'm upset when you did X," because of something in her past. I know that past event is not your fault, but I'm still feeling some kind of way. We should talk later after I've processed a bit. Way different than my past relationship. No silent treatment. No hiding emotions and exploding later. Firm about feelings while taking accountability. Honest apologies. It's great. We still have conflicts and even yell from time to time, but they are productive in the end. Edit. Thanks for gold. Answer. So I dated someone a while back and we had a few techniques that I thought were pretty good. We had a safe word basically for two types of situations. If either one was too emotionally aggressive about something and it wasn't going anywhere, basically we would say the word seagull. IDK, why that word, LOL. And we would stop, wind down, and know that we would revisit the topic later, when both in a better headspace to explain and or receive. On the other hand, if we were both aggravated or pissy about a bad day and started being rude or meany to each other, we would say Febreze. Basically, it was our yield, and naturally we use that word, meaning to clear the air and cut the bullshit and just consciously start relaxing with each other. I think part of it is we both felt like, I don't know. I felt lucky to be with him, like he was out of my league kind of, and he felt the same about me. But we knew each other felt that way, so we actually paid attention to each other's likes and dislikes, and conversation was easy and fun, and felt secure that the other wouldn't say anything to really hurt the other, because we were both lucky. If that makes sense, Coos, if one partner thinks they're better than the other, even subconsciously, it's hard to make it work, because someone's always expecting the other to act some type of way to meet their standards. Just speculation on that, though. Story 2. Us versus the problem mentality. AKA, instead of blaming you or herself for issues that inevitably will arise, she communicates with you in a way that focuses on what the issue is and how you can work together to solve it. Answer. This. Absolutely this. Actually talking about what she wants in communication, rather than mind games, manipulation, gaslighting, coercing, or using things as punishment. When she doesn't even listen to your reasons, or at least make an attempt to understand your side of anything, and instead she takes it personally, like you eliminate her cat or something, believing in her own opinions and feelings, instead of at least trying to see both sides of the relationship. Also, when she doesn't let go of anything, ever. If you get into an argument and all you're trying to do is just get her to at least understand your side of something, and she brings up past situations or has a predetermined view of the situation simply because it's you that she's talking to, holding a grudge for no reason. I get into arguments all the time with my GF, and she constantly and conveniently ignores my points on things or how I feel about it, chalking it up to her wanting to win or make me lose. I always say it's not about winning or losing, or it's not about wrong or right, and she doesn't understand it. Sometimes we just want to be understood, when my goal is to simply get her to understand my side of things, while her parameters for winning an argument is to prove me wrong based on what she believes or think is right. Then there's discourse. It's exhausting when the person you love doesn't at least make an effort to change or accept you, and instead blames you, even if she doesn't outright say it. Is communication and acceptance so hard? Is it really that hard to just accept that people have different views, instead of denying everything and deciding what's right and ignoring how the other person feels? Story 3. Emotional intelligence. That will apply for men as well. Anyone who takes the time to wonder why they feel a certain way versus acting on it out of instinct is a gift. I've never been in a relationship before like this in my life. We can talk anything out peacefully. No arguments in years. No insults or hurt feelings. Emotional intelligence is the key. Story 4. Straight up kindness. I met my wife 11 years ago and fell in love pretty quickly. She is the kindest person I have ever met. Doesn't matter the situation, she approaches all of them with a serenity that I have never been able to match. Every dog gets love. Every baby gets ogled at. You need some help? She is there with work boots on. Homeless? She keeps snacks and cash on hand to give out. I'm having a bad day? She will go above and beyond to make sure I know that I am loved. Answer. Absolutely this. I tell people I was attracted to my future wife because she was a great straight woman, and she was attracted to me because she discovered that no one bothered her when she was standing next to the giant, loud-mouthed ape who always looked angry, even when he wasn't. But what made me fall in love with her was that she is so unfailingly kind to everyone. We were the perfect balance, and for 35 years, we would approach situations with her in the lead so that people wouldn't be put off, but with me right there in the background in case someone got nasty. Now we're more like Santa and Mrs. Claus, and people don't believe me about being scary, but there it is. Story 5. She asks questions about you to genuinely understand who you are as a person, not just what you do for work and other surface-level topics. Answer. Yo, this has been so hard to find. It seems so simple. I'm regularly curious and attentive to people, and it's rarely reciprocated. I've been told that I'm a good listener often, but it's been so disheartening to not find that in so many potential relationships. I get it. We're human, and we're often so caught up in our own shoot that we don't make space for others. But it's been really hard for me to find someone who is curious about me, even though people generally like being around me and seek out my company. Story 6. When I cried in front of her, my cat died, and she just hugged me and comforted me. Exes before would ridicule me. Answer. I'm a woman, and when my childhood dog died, me ex, M, got pissed and asked when I was going to get a new one as I was sobbing. My parents carried out her dead body about 20 minutes prior. Then I hurriedly got out of the room and called him and jerk, which I never did. Never called him names except that time BC of it, and he told me to shut up meanie, and that I'm just crying so much BC I'm projecting me being upset with him onto my dog for attention. Like what? Story 7. Thoughtfulness. Thoughtfulness goes hand in hand with a lot of traits. My girlfriend is the most thoughtful partner I've ever had. I missed out on a job at my dream company, and she made me a feeling blue package full of blue snacks I like with a sweet card. I'll have a bad day, she shall surprise me with a dessert or a drink I like or something like that. She threw me my first surprise birthday party at an escape room with my friends because she knows I love them. When a partner takes time to genuinely think about you and the things you like, dislike, and thinks about things from your perspective, it's about the greenest flag I can think of. Story 8. Sense of humor. Though many say this and mean laughing at my jokes, but I want to be laughing at her jokes and quick wit. Story 9. Asking me if I want to be Little Spoon. Yes, I want to be Little Spoon. Little Spoon rocks. P.S. She asked me this on our first night together. I knew right there she was special. Story 10. She is willing to try new things with you that are related to what you enjoy. Also, guys, this goes both ways. If your woman is interested in something, try it out with her. Story 11. An ability to acknowledge her flaws and shortcomings. Someone who can not see them or projects them on others is an absolute relationship killer. Story 12. Just want to add on to the typical green flags here. She respects your hobbies and interests, does not have to be into them herself, but knows they are important to you. I'm in my late 40s, and my wife is cool with my weekly D&D sessions with the homies and late-night gaming sessions. Unfortunately, not all are in the same boat. Story 13. My wife, among other zillion virtues, has this consideration for others cleaning discipline. So we would go to hotels and she would make the bed, remove trash, etc., to the point that half the hotel's Airbnbs ask me if we even use the room. It's something that we don't even talk about, but make my eyes sparkle. She knows they will have to change blankets and everything, but thinks that an almost pristine room is a good image for the cleaning person to start with. Answer. Do not make the bed before you leave. If you want to help, pull the sheets and pillowcases off. Pile them close to, but not in front of the door to the room, and set the blankets aside, less stained. Bundle all used towels together in the bathroom or on a moisture-safe surface. Separate any recycling from trash if it appears that the facility recycles. Unfortunately, they often don't actually, even though they may have recycling bins in the rooms. And make sure there is nothing left inside drawers, cupboards, or fridges that wasn't already there. But if you have usable goods you are leaving, you can leave them in the appropriate location, on the counter or in the fridge. Staff regularly make use of usable goods intentionally left by guests. Consider it a tip. Condiments, unopened packages of food. Note, if you make the bed and the staff is lazy, which happens, they may opt not to bother to change the sheets, even though they are supposed to. So ensuring they get changed is a service you yourself would likely prefer if you were going to be the next guest. So please, do not make the bed before leaving. Story 14. Someone who actually is okay with their man being emotionally honest and open. A lot of women say they want that, but what they really want is a guy who'll call things cute and shed a single manly tear at Titanic, but will say, well, that's embarrassing, if he actually cries over childhood trauma or something. If you're mature and healthy enough to realize emotional honesty comes with awkward and difficult things that you probably don't want to deal with, but will deal with anyway, then that's a massive green flag. Story 15. Wow, they are very supportive. They give you your space. They are focused on building with you. They don't see the relationship as you versus them, but team versus problem. Story 16. This one might be a bit odd, but when I met my, now, wife, the love and kindness my FIL showed me really stood out. The very first time I met him, we were all staying in a cabin. He offered my wife and I, GF at the time, the bedroom and said he'd take the couch. IDKY, but I think about that moment often, and now, I'm as close with my FIL as I am my own dad. Seeing how her family immediately treated me was reflective of how she would treat me, and I'm happy to report we've been married for 6 years and are going strong. Answer. This is so wonderful to hear. I love in-law stories that are wholesome and warm. My parents have been horrible in-laws to my brother's wife, and it's caused a lot of stress as to how they'd treat my husband. I am backing away from my own family for that reason. It's been wild getting to know my parents in this new context, extremely unsettling, and many, many other reasons. So much of their dysfunction I don't want to be a part of anymore, let alone subject my husband to. And on the flip side, my husband's family has been nothing but amazing to me. Despite some troubled behavior of mine, I wouldn't blame them if they weren't welcoming anymore. But they are, genuinely, caring and want to be part of the solution, have been very supportive. Yay, awesome in-laws. Story 17. They all do silly things with you just because you like them and truly engage in the activity. I knew I was going to marry my husband the night we got back from a date, maybe a month or two into our relationship, and there was a raccoon in the dumpster behind my apartment. I made him sit in the car with me and watch the raccoon because I think they're super cute, and instead of rolling his eyes or making fun of me, he settled back in his seat, got comfortable, and had a whole conversation with me about raccoons. We both came up with names for the one in the dumpster, and his name was the best one, Ranger Rick. I went inside and thought to myself, yep, any guy who will go along with my crazy and hang out for an hour in my car to watch a dumpster diving raccoon is a keeper. We've been married 5 years, and I have no regrets. ETA, obviously, I married a man, but the same green flags apply to women. NB persons, LOL. Answer. This is a really important Gottman idea. He calls things like what you did bids of interest and opines that it is the partner's job to appropriately meet those bids. He also says it's completely toxic to deny them. It's my #1 piece of advice I give to younger men. If she is looking out the window and says she sees a bird, I don't give a fudge if you're tired. Go look at the goddamn bird with her. It doesn't have to be a production. Just go up next to her, look for the bird, and then say, oh, there it is right there, right? And she'll say, yeah. It takes nearly no effort, and it will bring both of you closer together. Both partners need to do this. Story 18. A pulse, which is a joke so sense of humor. That or wants to do her own stuff, lets you do yours, and you're both happy doing stuff together. It gives you loads to talk about when you can do your own stuff, then spend time together. Bliss. Story 19. Saying what you mean and meaning what you say, aka communication. I'm not a mind reader. Please just talk like a normal person. I don't pick up on hinting or anything like that. Story 20. There are a couple in my opinion. Respect is a big one. I'm not dating anyone shallow, abusive, or disrespectful to other people. It's a big indicator of something flawed in their personality. The biggest one for me, though, and this is going to sound weird, is when they text you back after the date ends. This isn't to say the guy shouldn't text back either, but seeing it from the other perspective really enforces the belief that they're interested in seeing you again. Story 21. TBH, the biggest green flag I've experienced is if she does things for you. No one will spend money on things they don't have, want, or need. If she puts together anything, buys something for you, makes you homemade food, sacrifices to make time to come see you, is a huge giveaway. She's really into you and wants something amazing together. She desires you, and that is much stronger than her liking you. Story 22. I'm a single dad, so a willingness to overcome scheduling obstacles in order to spend time with me is huge. Story 23. Staying during an argument. Enough people in my life just left me standing without completely giving me their side to understand them. Story 24. Are we fixing or listening is a great question people need to use more often. Sometimes people want help. Sometimes people just need to vent. Story 25. Sympathy, especially sympathy for understandable mistakes. A woman shouldn't be okay with you cheating, say, or gambling away savings, but they shouldn't blow up over small mistakes like mishearing something or forgetting to pick something up off the ground, even if it happens more than once. A truly wise person realizes they make mistakes too. Story 26. Having her own back, setting and enforcing boundaries without judgment or projection. Hot as fudge. Story 27. She shows a genuine interest in something I'm passionate about. For example, my cousin's friend was over, and she was asking about football, and she's a Minnesota fan, bless her heart, and she understood players on the team, in general a fair bit more than the average person, but she wanted to know more. So she was asking about other players, alignments, where everyone goes when lining up, etc. We're at the beach, and so we go and throw the football around, and she's asking about how to throw it properly. I'm explaining it. She's getting better at throwing very quickly, and I'm going to be honest, she was already attractive, but it might have been one of the sexiest thing a woman has ever done without being sexy. And she wasn't trying to be flirty with her questions, or ask but not really care, like just to be polite. No, she really wanted to know more about football, and it was a real turn-on. Story 28. She makes an effort. A lot of women have the kind of mentality where they are doing a man a favor by dating him, so therefore he needs to romance her and be thoughtful and do all this stuff for her while she does the bare minimum. A lot of men might do it too, but I don't date men, so don't really know. It's a huge green flag if she puts a lot of effort into the relationship as well. When I was a lot younger, a woman I was dating showed up with McDonald's. I love McDonald's, flowers, and a 5-pound bag of gummy bears. I was absolutely dumbfounded. I put a lot of effort into making partners feel special and loved. I expect the same thing. If they aren't good at it, that's fine, as long as they put the effort in. Story 29. Cello, racing bike, good books, plants, great with infants, humor, understands the appeal of Calvin Hobbes. I guess the last one is the biggest one. Story 30. A feedback loop, ideally involving outside perspectives. Let's say the two of you have a fight. A positive feedback loop looks like she describes the situation to a trusted friend or advisor and asks for advice. She receives advice and considers it. She acknowledges her role in the conflict, apologizes if necessary, and comes up with ways in which she wants to learn and grow from the situation. She follows up with her friends, advisors on her personal growth. A negative feedback loop looks like she gives a biased version of the event to her friends. Her friends always take her side and reinforce her negative feelings. This echo chamber leads to no growth, no learning, and the same problems happening again. If both of you are doing the positive loop, each fight becomes an opportunity to learn. You will never be perfect, but you will get to a really good place really quickly. It's possible to have a positive loop without an external perspective, just by being good at self-evaluation. But there are some tough or recurring problems where you will sometimes need to seek outside help. That's not a weakness. Story 31. Her being willing to join in with your interests, even if she doesn't like or understand them. I went most of my life with no one caring to even talk with me about my hobbies, and it made me feel so lonely. But when I met my girlfriend, now wife, I was so happy to see how she could be so enthusiastic about things she had stated to not care for. If you want to settle, your partner has got to be able to bond with you over things they would never had tried if not for you. Story 32. Laughing together does it for me. Not light chuckles, the type of laughter that creates inside jokes that are impossible to explain and sound dumb. Story 33. A woman that does stuff. I mean, she look at you changing a tire and shall come help. I guess practical is the word I'm looking for. Story 34. I was dating two women at the same time. I was not exclusive with either, and they both understood that. I really liked both of them, but with one, I felt like I always had to watch myself so I didn't screw it up. The other, I felt comfortable being myself around. I married the latter, and we're coming up on our 20th anniversary. Story 35. When she treats everyone she meets, no matter who they are, with respect. She treats the janitor with the same respect she gives to a CEO. Story 36. She doesn't put up with your bullshit behavior, calls you out in a constructive way when you're acting in a way that is beneath you. When I met my wife and I was 23, she was 18, and one of our first fights I said to her, "You're being a meanie," and she said, if I ever call her that again, that she will walk out the door and never come back. Lesson stuck. I haven't name-called anyone, Never mind just her ever since that day. Story 37. If a girl reads books, that's an automatic green flag for me. That might sound silly, but if a girl regularly spends her time reading for enjoyment, that is an instant green flag to me. Story 38. That she's willing to grow as a person. I've met and dated far too many girls who think they're finished, that they've reached the top of the mountain, and we should all bow before their greatness. My wife is constantly trying to learn more and gets excited to share new things she's learning with me. Just the humility to know you still have a lot to learn is not just attractive in a romantic partner. It's just a good character trait in general. Story 39. Probably going to get flayed for this, but in my experience, a woman who recognizes the stupidity and shallowness of materialism is almost guaranteed to have several other rare and wonderful character traits. For example, would rather spend money on adventure experiences, holidays, instead of designer clothes or a newer car. Those are special gems. Story 40. Most people are incapable of taking unmitigated, zero excuses, blame for a problem. That's my fault and my fault alone. I'm sorry, it won't happen again, is not in the vocabulary of most people, men and women. But in my personal experience, and it is merely my experience, it's even more vanishingly rare among women. If you ever hear it at an appropriate time, I usually find it's a piece of superior microcosmic evidence of an emotionally mature and stable woman. Story 41. Honestly, I'm a pretty simple guy. If a woman is willing to put in the same amount of effort towards me that I am putting towards her, I think we'll do fine. My last couple relationships was me carrying 80 of the workload. Flirting, asking to hang out, buying gifts, taking interest in things they like, kissing, etc. It was always me who had to initiate that, despite me being awkward as all hell. I just want someone who will do those kinds of things without me being the one to initiate it. Also someone who won't make fun of me constantly for being a nerdy gamer like my last ex did, even though I would hang out with her more than I would play video games. Story 42. To be able to sustain herself financially, to have confidence, a sense of humor, and also goes to therapy. Story 43. When you play a joke saying, "Oops, I forgot my wallet," and without hesitation she pulls out her purse and says, "No problem at all. I got this one, and we can play mini golf and loser pays for next." I wifed her up. Story 44. Understanding that you have needs too. Main character syndrome is everywhere now, and a lot of women have been conditioned to expect the movie mythos. Men that constantly show affection and appreciation, but who are also the strong, silent types who have no needs of their own. To be fair, I think men have way more unrealistic relationship expectations overall than women, but the Twilight phenomenon is still real. You too can be a neurotic, selfish mess and expect unconditional love in return. I'm trying to think of a more positive way to spin this, but it's hard. The opposite of someone who expects everything on their own terms. Story 45. Showing that you care. I spent a lot of time chasing people because they were beautiful or seemed interesting or whatever, but very few of those people showed they cared about me in their actual actions. Story 46. I watched my GFEB care for her ailing elderly parents, at times having me wait on the sidelines. I married her. Story 47. When instead of calling your manliness into question during your moments of emotional vulnerability, she comforts you and reassures you that your feelings are valid. Story 48. When you can do stuff together and separately, and everyone is okay with that. I like video games. She likes to paint. Sometimes she paints while I play, so we are doing stuff together, but not together, as she says. When her friends make an off-color joke about you, the "oh, I'm just teasing" type of catty shoot insecure people do, and instead of laughing, she lays down the law and defends you. Story 49. Listening. I don't mean hearing and waiting for their turn to speak. I mean actually listening and absorbing what's happening. You'd think this is common sense, but it really isn't, on average. Story 50. When she doesn't mind you being vulnerable or even encourages it. Men like to be held too. I love being the little spoon. And there's nothing as therapeutic as having a good cry with your girlfriend, wife, whatever, to just hold you through it. Story 51. Clear communication. Are you attracted to me? Then let me know. No, I don't mean play with your hair or bite your lip or point your feet towards me and then cry into your pillow about how I'm not taking the hint. If you like me, then get me alone. Find any excuse. Turn to me. Put your hands somewhere on my arms and actually say, "Listen, I like you. I want you to be my boyfriend." If not those exact words, then something equally as clear. Most women do not understand what it is like to live a life where routine rejection is something to guard oneself against. Story 52. It took me a couple marriages to find my bride. First had mental issues. The other, well, was undiagnosed bipolar. And let's say, took matters into her own hands. One thing my wife and both do is brag about each other to other people. One thing I can say is my bride is, and I have met a lot of people, is the most intelligent person I have met. She sees things differently. By that I mean that I see things at the surface, for the most part. She sees causation of the situation. Another thing I absolutely adore about her is she teaches me something new every day. Maybe it's a word, or a historical facts, or the conclusion of a scientific study that was done. She works for the government, states, and Fed. She was a statistic professor before I met her, and has written a couple statistical books. The special thing when I knew she was the one for me was on our fifth date. Backstory: I had a project that was sold, signed, and staffed, and it was all canceled on me. Let's just say it was a very expensive day. I texted her this meme of a T-Rex chasing a little boy who was screaming. Over the T-Rex it said, Monday, and over the kid it read, me. So on our fifth date, she brought me this plastic sword from Party City and wrote on it, Tyrannosaurus interfectorum, which mean Tyrannosaur's killer. At the time I was dating, heavily, 4-6 dates per week kind of thing. Most gals that I took on dates to me either seem shallow or a pain in the jerk. Fake eyelashes, long nails, too much makeup is all a dripping blood red flag to me. And most wanted to talk about themselves and their friends. Another red flag. She wasn't any of that. When we met for the first time, I mentioned that the new Spider-Man movie was good. She responded with, oh yeah, it was. But if you read Spider-Man, insert some number here, through, insert some number here, you'll see how. I was just in her eyes at that point. We moved in together and were engaged in a couple months. We are in each other's thoughts and emotions. I am very empathetic and she picks up on very subtle nuances. She knows every single mode or mood I am in, and she understands it all. And I do for her as well. I couldn't have found a more perfect fit. She and I were both previously married and are in no mood for drama. We literally have not had one fight in our entire marriage. Plus, she's a ginger, beautiful, and athletic. I tell you, men of Reddit, she hits all of my buttons. Story 53. How she deals with inconveniences. When my wife was just a new girlfriend, we were hosting a cookout and posing on the deck for a group photo when my friend knocked her JBL speaker off the deck and we watched it fall and break. My ex would have made the biggest scene. My GF played it cool. My friend replaced it, and there was no drama. I have more examples too, but seeing her not overreact in those moments made me a lot more at peace around her, as opposed to walking on eggshells. Story 54. Understanding that you both are different people and might be into different things, and respect being given for those differences. Story 55. I'm married to my best friend, and the only person I've ever been with seriously. We never run out of things to talk about and laugh every day. Sense of humor is a big green flag. Red flags tells you you're immature, obsessively on phone even when going out, non-ironically psychotic. Story 56. Her preferred drink is a pint of lager. She cusses like a trooper. She likes to travel, finds you amusing, and is beautiful. I didn't even really realize the fifth point until friends started asking me, how did you pull her? Married 33 years this year. Story 57. I have IBS. Important for the story. My wife and I had been dating for like 2 months. I was driving us back from a date in my car when my wretched bowels started burbling. I knew we weren't far from the nearest gas station, so I played it cool. About 12 a mile from Salvation, traffic stops. There's a wreck ahead and police have the whole road blocked. At this point, my sphincter had reached critical pressure and was near failure. I told her matter-of-factly that I was about to shoot my pants and I was sorry. I put the car in park, bailed, and ran the rest of the way. I made it to the bathroom with a photo finish and exorcised a toilet demon. When I finished, I walked out and found my car parked in the gas station parking lot. She was back in the passenger seat, waiting for me. We've been together for 16 years, married for 14. Story 58. Cleanliness. How a person keeps themselves, their home, reflects their sense of value and purpose in life, in my opinion. It tells me your priorities, your ability to handle responsibility, your work ethic, the value you place on the things you worked for and others worked for, etc. Back in college, I briefly dated this young lady who was lovely in all respects, except she had no sense of cleanliness. Total slob. I went to her apartment once. Her bedroom was covered in dirty laundry so thick, she literally arranged it to make walking past. There were empty cups, food containers, and bags of more clothes everywhere. Fruit flies were whizzing by, and she had time to clean up. She invited me a week beforehand. When we were still dating, the first time I went to my wife's apartment was impromptu. We had to go back to her place because she didn't have a jacket, and she just left school. I walked in, smelled great, like a cinnamon candle. No clothes were thrown about, clean surfaces, no garbage anywhere. Beautiful. I strongly suspect this woman was going to be my wife, based on the first few dates we went on. But going up to her place for a jacket, I knew she viewed herself as having value and purpose. Married 22 years, baby. Story 59. Motherly skills is a green flag for me. When I met my wife, she had a 2-year-old. She was and still is an amazing mother. We have now been together 10 years and had more kids. She's the best mom to our kids, and to me that is so important. Story 60. She accepts you for who you are, but also encourages you to do and be better, not for herself, but because she wants to see you succeed. Story 61. When they don't need overly expensive stuff. If the two of you have different spending habits, that is going to be a recurring fight every month, week, etc. Story 62. A lack of red flags. After coming out of a 10-year marriage with a narcissist, I wanted nothing more than to be alone. I had a few FWBs to fulfill needs, and I was happy as a clam. I had a zero-tolerance policy for any bullshit. Then, she showed up. A year into my alone time, I kept looking for red flags and wasn't finding them. Long story short, that was 12 years ago, and she's still here. It's been the best 12 years of my life, and wish I'd met someone like her sooner. We've never fought. Yes, we've had some tearful talks, but they were always grounded in love and respect. I only wish everyone could be this lucky. Story 63. Obviously looks, but kindness and decency are definitely equal factors. Cleanliness, and likes to cook. I want a woman that I can enjoy the kitchen with. Great in the sack is also an important one. Gotta have smarts too, as well as similar interests. Luckily, I found one 32 years ago, and I ain't letting her go anytime soon. Story 64. If she laughs at your jokes, say a bad one. If she still laughs, you're in. If she laughs and touches your arm, you are really in. Story 65. Goals. Goals that are ambitious yet realistic. Reasonable progress towards them is important too. It lets you know that she isn't just aimlessly searching for a direction in life. Story 66. She is comfortable enough to hang out on the first date without having to put on a front or a veneer. Story 67. As a recently single and looking guy, not having her socials full of thirst traps is very important. It reeks of the need for validation from everyone and is a huge turnoff for me. Story 68. When she offers to split a meal on a first date, I'm always prepared to pay and will generally decline an offer to split costs on a first date. But just being offered tells me that the person in question is respectful of my time and finances, isn't likely to be doing female dating strategy nonsense with me. Story 69. Being nice to me and reaching out to talk first on occasion, asking how I'm doing, complimenting me sometimes. I'm pretty easy to please, lol. Story 70. Someone's who's genuine and not completely brainwashed by societal norms. In other words, if you're cool, honest, and aren't completely consumed by shoot like you're supposed to be the man in the relationship, then you're lit in my book. Even if we aren't going to be together, you're just auto-lit off rip. Story 71. All these green flags are making me feel simultaneously better and sad about myself because I try to implement a lot of the wholesome behaviors listed here, yet I don't get approached often IRL. Sometimes my communication is seen as a turnoff to people I've talked to, but I began to tear up reading the comments. If others see the value of these green flags, maybe one day I'll find someone who values mine. Story 72. She's kind to everyone and kind in how she talks about others. These people will also be kind to you in relationships and talk kindly of you. Story 73. I am female, but my boyfriend has told me many times that me showing a genuine interest in his hobby's interests has meant a lot to him. His ex was very dismissive of things he loved, and he often just felt ashamed for wanting to indulge in them. I've always been up for watching, playing what he's interested in to get to know it, and thus him better. And I believe it's one of the things he values most in me. I'm not perfect, but I do try my best to be as attentive as I can. Story 74. I feel having a compatible life path and willingness to talk about stuff concerning the relationship. Story 75. Kind, caring, charitable, forgiving, understanding, a good relationship with her parents, and educated. Story 76. I don't care what you do. Give them the same respect back. You'll either have a beautiful, trusting relationship or you'll know they're not the one quickly. An example, my buddies went on a golf trip. I wanted to go but knew the responsible thing would be to skip it because we have some big financial goals coming up. I didn't even tell her about it until a few days before, and she was furious I didn't go. She wanted me to be happy that bad. Story 77. Open, direct, and honest communication. I take what my wife says literally within reason, and she means what she says. It makes life together so easy. Story 78. Kindness and validating you. Maybe the first one more than the second for some, but my family heavily invalidated me when I was growing up and I have issues. So I would like someone who can at least hear me out when I can't calm my mind. Story 79. Let you be you. When you find someone that knows all your weaknesses and still wants to be with you, she's a keeper. Story 80. She understands that I'm very different from other people, but still respects the type of person that I am. Story 81. I have to say, a sense of humor. My wife and I think alike, and I'm a sarcastic dude. She knows what I'm thinking before I say it. Story 82. A woman who can recognize when they do something wrong and can fully articulate their personal flaws. If they can't, it shows a severe lack of self-awareness, and I will run for the hills and never look back. To be clear, both males and females should be able to do this. Story 83. Open and honest communication. Being receptive, appreciative of open and honest communication. Trying to make me smile or laugh. Being genuinely interested in me and my interests, even if my interests are not interesting to her. Story 84. Honestly, comfort. When I met my wife, one of our first dates was to go listen to a friend's band play at a bar. When she leaned back and rested against me, completely relaxed, something so simple she doesn't remember it, I immediately knew I was going to die with this amazing woman by my side. Pretty sure it was only our third date where I told her I was going to marry her. Story 85. She likes the video games I play. We played multiplayer Call of Duty on as a date and it was amazing. She is my soulmate. Story 86. Clear communication. Please just say what is on your mind. Don't try to guide me there or play any games. Just talk to me. Story 87. Communicates, is forthright about what they like and what they don't, sets boundaries and respects my boundaries. Story 88. Easygoing mindset, where problems are just a challenge and a chance to improve, not start drama. You can laugh and relax around her, and being with her still feels like you're in your natural habitat, and you know she feels the same. Story 89. Bring me your solutions. Don't bring me your problems. Her logic is better than mine. She looks after her family, our children, her career. I got lucky. Story 90. Her walk. Chin high, shoulders back, with self-confidence. This is a woman who believes in herself and therefore has accomplished goals in her life. While she may not need a partner in life, she chooses that option. She refuses to play the victim in life. This is the sexiest thing about my wife. Story 91. If she's ready, willing, and able to lightsaber duel with you in public places at the drop of a hat. I had one like that and let her slip away. Don't be like me. Get you your Sith Lord and put a ring on it. Story 92. When she slips into your life and you don't have a change a thing. Same hobbies, friends, budget, dreams, except now there's someone there, experiencing it all with you, and life somehow feels easier and simpler, not harder. Story 93. You can feel safe around her and not like you're walking on eggshells. She isn't quick to anger, even over general things. You feel at peace when she is around. She is understanding of your flaws and won't use them against you. Story 94. Effort. If a woman actually tries to get to know you on a first date, suggests more things to do, offers to pay, etc., it means she's not just there to be entertained. Story 95. Too many of these answers are variations on she can't be a feminist, can't be fatherless, needs to be able to laugh at fudge-up jokes, like violation jokes, needs to not be emotional, needs to be a real woman, aka the conservative dream of a silent woman who will make babies and be a housewife. Yucky. Story 96. I think this goes for both men and women, but someone who just has their life together, stable job, financially good, addressing debt if they have it, clean, not out partying, etc. Story 97. When she can have a rational conversation about a relationship problem without blaming or manipulation. This is also a green flag for all relationships. It just seems more crucial in a close romantic one. Story 98. When she looked back at me with those bright blue eyes and smiled. Instant, yep, That's my future wife. And she was. Stolly. Story 99. Knowing and stating your needs and preferences in a straightforward, constructive way, whether in bed, with kids, shopping. Not just a good partnership dynamic in general, but straight up attractive to me. Story 100. Humble confidence. I didn't realize this until after getting married. My wife will often doubt herself, but when she believes in herself and succeeds at something, there's nothing more attractive. Story 101. Putting in effort to date, trying, being responsive, answering messages, actually wanting to date and not just going through the motions or getting over an ex. Story 102. They say that you can open up and share your emotions and then actually let you, and don't try making you feel like less of a man when those emotions aren't all positive. Story 103. That she can communicate her thoughts instead of thinking you must know the answers in her thoughts. Red flag. Story 104. Good communication. No, it's fine or the like. Good communication is the key to a healthy relationship. Story 105. I mean, when she calls you after not seeing her for a long time, asks you out for drinks, and says, don't worry about the drinking. You don't have to drive home. I feel like even I can't mistake that sign. Story 106. Sees you as an individual human being and not just what she expects a man to be, just like a woman would want from a man. Story 107. Her place is clean. This can be true for men or women, but you get a good sense of who someone is looking at their home environment. Story 108. Confidence in themselves. It's such an underrated aspect but comes across so quickly and is so attractive. Immediately hooks me. Smiley. Story 109. Communication is key. Makes effort to ask me about what's going on with me and what I'm into and digs deeper. At the same time, isn't afraid to open up and be honest about the same things with herself. Too often I find people who never ask me those things or who won't be forward with what's on their mind. Empathy and honesty go a long way. Story 110. Not talking about her exes like they are all terrible pieces of garbage. A lot of men and women tend to have nothing good to say about their past partners. All that tells me is that they are the common element, so maybe they were the problem after all. Story 111. Says things that make you think, wow, I didn't think of that. Opens your mind and challenges you to be best version of yourself. Story 112. This is a two-way street, but showing an active interest in what I enjoy. She doesn't have to partake of the hobby or interest if it's not her thing, but it genuinely means a lot to have someone show involvement in my favorite stories, or my desire to cook, garden, or whatever the case may be. Story 113. How she talks about her ex can be a green flag or a red one. Unless you are in high school, the woman probably has several former partners. And if everything was all their fault, someday everything is going to be all your fault. On the other hand, if she is still friends with some exes, or the reasons for the breakups are mutual, or she accepts her faults in past relationships, that is someone you can work with. Story 114. Silliness. If she can be silly and I can be silly, then we are all good. It's a good sign of comfort around one another. Story 115. Listens to understand, as opposed to listening to oppose, justify, defend, or for me to stop talking so she can talk. Story 116. Respects your privacy, especially when it comes to things people expect to know, like about your body, the intimacy, even some things about mental health. Has positive things to say to you. Before I met my wife, I don't think anyone said things like, I like your hair, you're handsome. I love that you know that. You cry in front of them and they react the way you would think a caring person would. Story 117. Someone who is polite to waiters, waitresses, and cleans up after themselves. Just consideration for others in general. I like that. Story 118. Consistency and reliability. Too many times I've had very constructive and mature conversations with an ex about a conflict in the relationship and walked away thinking we had worked together to come to an agreement solution, only for them to throw that all out the window the next time it came up. If she can keep her word and not mislead me, I'm in. Story 119. Oh, I got this. Or any variation of that mentality. Basically just someone who can step up and be a partner. This is true for both people in the relationship, though. Someone who will always step up and help out, shows up for the relationship, and puts in the effort and is generally a positive force for growth. Story 120. Being nice to service workers. There is zero reason to yell at a waiter or a cashier, even if they messed up something. Story 121. Definitely kindness. My first wife was pretty, smart, charismatic, but not an ounce of selflessness. She wanted to put down our 2 cats because one of them had diarrhea problems. Our fault due to letting them drink out of the toilet. Then she gave me an ultimatum while pregnant. The cats go to the pound or she's gone. I called her bluff. She was constantly disrespectful of service professionals and asked me to chew people out, then not talk to me for a week when I refused. She said she wanted to separate the day I was laid off from a 12-year job. I remember when we came upon a woman in an alley in Chicago who was lying prone on the ground in -5-degree weather, and she yelled at me when I stopped to help this woman get to shelter, who was confused and on substances. Kindness is my #1 priority in my next wife. I also green flag women with perspective on their lives, intelligence and attentive to their physical and mental health. Story 122. This is easy for me since my partner has all of the green flags: intelligence, compassion, empathy, a desire for self-improvement, a need for new challenges, and a strong love of learning and growing. Story 123. When she is able to communicate instead of just giving hints, I am completely oblivious to hints. Direct communication is the only way to get me to understand. Story 124. Being able to talk about problems without going radio silent, cold, and/or getting emotional, aggressive. I'm not perfect, but holy shoot, please, can we just talk things out calmly for once? Story 125. There are some great answers in here that are more of the what is a key behavioral trait in a person that will emerge over time in a committed relationship. That's a good discussion topic too, but it's not really a green flag, as I understand that term, because it's not something you can possibly deduce in the early stages of getting to know someone. For me, the absolute simplest, best early green flag indicator is just general cheerfulness and kindness. I don't mean ditzy. I mean someone who genuinely has positive outlook on life. Is this a positive person? Positivity is massive. Negative people are exhausting. Negative people suck the life out of you. People whose defining trait is snarkiness and sarcasm can be hilarious in a friendship, but that is not what you want in a life partner. There's a strong correlation between that kind of demeanor and root selfishness. That negativity will fester. It will seep out in many ways over the course of a relationship and will leave you feeling unsupported and empty. For all people, but especially for what a man needs, EMO, there's tremendous value in partnering with someone who just puts you at ease, makes you smile on a bad day through genuine cheerfulness, and who you can trust to be motivated by a desire to provide care to others. Story 126. She insists on paying for about half of everything from the beginning. She's on time for things, or if she's going to be late, she tells you as soon as she knows she's going to be late. Later on in the relationship, she has a similar intimacy drive, or is willing to make some adjustments. Those are universal things. Most of the other things I'd say are a matter of personal preference. Story 127. When she was PMSing and she told me, "Leave me alone. I'm feeling hormonal and I don't want to take it out on you." Then I knew to make her red meat for dinner and get her a bunch of chocolate. Story 128. We broke up some time ago due to different problems that arose in our relationship. But one day I was talking to her about my grandma's passing and the way it affected me. And then I unexpectedly found myself crying in front of her. I tried to get up to wash my tears in some other place because I didn't want her to see me like that. But she immediately grabbed my hand, made me sit back again, and hugged and comforted me until I felt better again. Story 129. Can communicate her feelings, handles her own shoot, is honest not only with you but importantly, with herself, has a good relationship with family, friends, and solid work-life balance. Bonus, can cook and enjoys giving excellent oral intimacy. Story 130. She accepts your hobbies and gives you reasonable space to exercise them. Doesn't necessarily want to get involved, nor completely ignores them. Validate your enjoyment of things other than your relationship with them. Story 131. 2 meters by 4.5 meters is the biggest green flag I've seen in a woman. It was not something I was comfortable with. Story 132. My biggest one is when they are clingy, but not overly clingy, like they don't blow up your phone or constantly need interaction you. I like it when you are the first one to respond. I like that you want to see me. I like that you want to cuddle with me, like simple, clingy stuff like that. Story 133. When you ask them for a photo of themselves and the image that they send doesn't contain the following: phone covering up face, a filter, a they-them, since in this scenario I'm looking for a woman. What it should include. A clear enough photo so I can figure out the color of her eyes so I can tell her what beautiful, example color, eyes she has. Story 134. When you're kinda hesitant to share your biggest fantasy or kink, but she's wanting to know more about it to indulge you in it and then some. Story 135. Being good with kids. The patience, empathy, and genuine kindness it takes to patiently talk to and relate well to kids is beyond me at a certain point. When I see someone do it well and naturally, I'm automatically going to like them. Story 136. A few green flags of mine. Not insanely jealous or jealous in general. I'm friends with exes. I've had casual intimacy with a lot of people in my social circle. And no, I won't cut them off because you're insecure. Actually good at communicating directly. So tired of hints that need a whole NSA analyst team to be decrypted. There is a problem. Let's talk about it like adults, without shouting or stewing for weeks. Have actual self-confidence. I'm so tired of partners that need a constant stream of validation, coming from me or any random guy that comes along. Story 137. Has her own social network, friends or ability to create such. Has her own life goals, passion that she pursues, even if passively. Story 138. You can be yourself without judgment around them. Even better, when they encourage you to embrace who you are. This obviously goes both ways, lol. Story 139. When I dare to bring up a topic or tell them something that has been met with freakouts and overreactions, or even blocked numbers in the past, and they are just like, yeah, that's fine. The sad truth is that as a guy, I sometimes feel like I get used to expecting women to not be that fair or reasonable, or to even be downright scary when it comes to not knowing how to avoid landmines and blow-ups with them. So having calm, thoughtful rationality and acceptance arrive instead is such a relief and makes me feel so much more relaxed and closer to someone, and makes me feel like, wow, I gotta protect this one. Story 140. She's not a damsel in distress, but actually have the backbone to try and do something about something she wants doing, whilst also having the brains to know what not to fudge around with. Story 141. Being a genuinely nice, loyal partner and person. There is nothing like a woman you can trust that adores you more than anybody else. Unfortunately, it seems rare today, which just frickin' stinks. I would never betray a woman, but every girlfriend I've had has cheated on me. I just want to be loved. Story 142. If on the first date, you at least pretend to reach for the check, it'll take you on a second date, guaranteed. Story 143. Being able to talk about their ex-past relationships in a mature way without constantly running them down and talking shit about them. In my experience, the less she is willing to tell both sides of the story, the more she has to hide. To me, it shows a massive amount of maturity. Even if he did something terrible to end the relationship, there's always two sides. Story 144. I'm in a relationship right now that is soon going to end because I'm constantly being made to feel guilty for wanting to spend a little time with my coworkers or friends, or just do anything in my admittedly limited spare time that doesn't involve her. Story 145. When she does not apply double standards to her needs and her partner's needs in a relationship and is not gender prejudiced. That whole dichotomy of needing appreciation, attention, affection, and support while subscribing to the still vastly popular opinion that guys can somehow get by without that, or even worse, should not even want it. There's been a lot of progress, but I still run into this notion more often than you'd think. Story 146. Rational emotive cognition. The ability to temper strong emotions with clear reasoning and vice versa. This leads to an ability to distinguish truth from falsity, and I deeply appreciate that quality. Story 147. Funny girls. If a woman can genuinely make you laugh, she's dangerous. She's basically got ME by the panties at that point. Story 148. Listen to what she says about her friends. It will say volumes about her. Most times they are alike. I wish I read those lines. Somewhat. Story 149. Enthusiasm and initiation are big ones. If you can make me feel like I'm not bothering you when we talk, and also if you initiate conversation as much as I do, then that makes me feel wanted and attractive. Honesty, reciprocated energy, taking an interest in stuff that I'm passionate about and being willing to share yours with me as well. If you're serious about us paying for our own food on early dates, like you're not doing so as some kind of dumb game or childish test, then that clears up a lot of worries and misconceptions right off the bat and tells me that you're here for the actual date and are interested in what this could be. When we've built up some trust and understanding, we can start spotting each other on stuff. But this way is straightforward, and the focus is on each other rather than rules. Story 150. When you feel comfortable being yourself around her, i.e. goofy shoot you only dose around good friends and family. Story 151. Cooking. Saturday night? Forget.